Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to today's podcast. Please let me know if you can hear me in that chat. In that chat, let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Blessings, Christian. Destiny, let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Hoping that the sound is good. I know the first two episodes I've been on visual, on camera, but we are going real podcast style. That's just the way that I've been encouraged to do it. Over here on this side, where you see our sign, our the Love Walk Approach sign. Sometimes there may be another guest over there, but today and for this stretch, awesome, Destiny. Thank you so much. For this stretch of time, we may be here um, just giving you the layout of what we are here to discuss. And today, I feel really good about today's time. Hey, that's not. Hey, Nadia. Good. Thank you that you can hear me. Um, so today's topic, first of all, before I even get into it, go ahead and do share. Go ahead and do share. Go ahead and do share. Let them know that the Love Walk Approach is on. The Love Walk Approach is on. And today we are talking about living with empathy, but not just empathy, but vibrant empathy. So our discussion today is going to be about that first pillar of the Love Walk Approach. And for those of you who do not know, thank you, Christian. For those of you who do not know why we are here, in just a minute, I'm going to give you a brief, but let's go ahead and invite others into this space. See, we are live. This is not this is not a recording. We are live right now in the moment. So let's go ahead and grab these uh, individuals, our loved ones, those that we believe need to be in on this conversation. We are in the midst of a movement, something that will help us to understand life a little bit better. It doesn't mean that it's going to be immediately something you want to grab hold to, but it definitely will help you to understand and see things through a different set of lenses. So come on, let's get these numbers up. Let's get these numbers up. I'll be doing a little bit of that on my end. Let's go ahead and share and grab these peoples. While you are inviting those of you who already clicked that share button, please make sure that you are also subscribed to the channel. Click the bell, but when you click the bell, make sure you click all for all notifications that you are alerted when we are live, so that you are alerted when we are live or alerted when a new video has posted. There will definitely be times where I'm posting videos with a little nugget here and there. Also, if you are not already subscribed to our Love Walk chat mailing list, then make sure you do that as well. All you have to do is type in http://bit.ly / Love Walk Chat, all lowercase letters at the end. Love Walk Chat. It's right there scrolling by your screen. Blessings, LaMonica. Come on in and do share. I encourage you to share with at least 3 to 5 people, if not on your pages. Again, I think I shared this with you guys when we first started, that we are building this organically. What does that mean? It means that we are going to do a lot of word of mouth. I really believe that things work when we have those who can say, this is what I benefited from this particular thing. Here, I think that you should try it too. Right? That's kind of how we do with reviews online and things like that. And we know that everybody has different perspectives and different tastes and preferences. But the more they get to see people who are benefiting from the podcast, then they'll be more likely to be like, oh, you know what? I think somebody told me about that the other day. I see it again. It must be meant for me to go over there and check it out. So we want to get that make that noise, make that noise and build this audience. I'm waiting to see a certain number really quickly before I start diving in. I want to encourage the sharing. I think I've encouraged sharing before, but not to this extent. We're building something, so I guess I have to be the one to say, hey, let's go ahead and dive in. So let's build it. Let's build it. Let's build it. In the meantime, those who have already shared multiple times, say hello to me in the chat. Let me know how you're doing today. That is a legit question. How are you today? I don't want a generic answer. Blessed and highly favored. I'm wonderful. Everything is great. It's a genuine question for a genuine, real answer. How are you today? How are you today? And today we are talking about having empathy, but not just empathy, but vibrant empathy. I know that in and of itself already got some of y'all like, don't know if I'm really gonna be a lot vibrant about trying to empathize with people. I don't really care. So we about to get into it. We're about to get into it because the truth is, I know that you are not in the best place where you're just kind of like, I want in. Let me go ahead and be empathetic to the peoples. You are full. Well, you eating good over there then? You eating good over there? That's what you mean when you say you're full? Or have you been diving into some teachings and some spiritual conversations today? What kind of food are you? What kind of fool are you? How's everybody else? I see Destiny responded. What's everybody else's response? How are you doing today? Oh, oh, you spiritually full. That means you've been diving in. You've been in prayer. You've been going in. Uh, I can see you in my head. I can see you in my head. How's everybody else doing today? Good, Christian. Awesome. All is well, Nadia. Awesome. Of course. Of course. All right. I don't see the numbers jumping up here, but I do want to jump in because I don't want everybody to have to wait too long to have this conversation. But so today we're going to be talking about empathy, right? Vibrant empathy. And it's one of those conversations. You was great yesterday. You're feeling a little shaky. I right dive into some things, maybe, and absolutely do understand that because I'm still who I am. If I pick up on anything that I need to address, I will do that in this space. So we it's always a chat and flow with me, but we'll tap into that. We're about to actually say a prayer in just a second, anyway. So let's go ahead and start with the preliminary. All right, with the preliminaries. And a part of that is for us to understand my perspective of things so that you can kind of tap in and be like, okay, I think I get that. I think I can vibe with that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Um, Everyone is not going to be accepting of the message. And the reason for that is because it's really difficult for us at times to fully embrace something that is out of our norm. out of our norm, out of that ordinary for us. And I'm talking about a message that is for the people, and not just for one individual or one group. We are talking about a message that brings it all together, a message that speaks to the whole of the greater whole, right? Because it is very easy for us to uh, take on a viewpoint that does a lot of separating. It is very easy for us to see from a viewpoint that does a lot of separating. And I'm going to tell you that a part of that reason is because most of us have gone through this really painful existence, or some of us have a very perceived painful existence. And I'll tell you the difference in a second. It doesn't mean that a person is not being honest or not 100% real. But it does mean that because we see through a different set of lenses, sometimes the perceived pain comes from just the perspective of an individual. For instance, they may not have gone through anything physical, but because they are sensitive in nature, it appears that everything that's said, everything that's done, everything that is presented to them is from the perspective of pain. In other words, yes, that hurt. That doesn't feel great. And those individuals, if I could be honest, may be those that are very empathic, which means that they feel a lot of things. So they may be feeling the pain or the angst from another individual, and they don't know the difference between whether it's them or the other. And I definitely went through that a lot in the beginning of my life, up until no, I still feel others, but I am kind of more at the place where I know now that, hey, it could be either or it could be nothing at all. It could be the atmosphere, it could be the elements, it could be whatever. And the reason why I know that now is because I've taken time to get to know myself a little bit better, not dissecting myself down and breaking myself down and breaking myself apart, but finally learning how to gather the information concerning Shalonda, right? And putting everything in its proper place. Um, those who do have pain from physical situations with others, encounters with people that really scarred them, mental, emotional abuse from someone that was going through their own pain. So that's where we're going to dig in today. So we're talking about having vibrant empathy, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the sum total of why we are here and what this message is that I have for the world. So I've always been a very spiritual individual, one who has had a lot of questions about God, a lot of questions about life. And I grew up as a Christian, fundamentalist Christian, who had very strict teachings on whatever end I was on. So as growing up in the Baptist church, we had the focus on baptism, but most of the conversation that I've ever heard, and mostly every sermon, was about, the death, the resurrection of Christ Jesus, but mostly do this or else you burn, you go to hell. That type of conversation, more of a fear-based teaching. I didn't hear a whole lot about love growing up, except for on certain occasions, right? The same way I believe that the message of the cross was preached, I believe that love was supposed to be that message that was taught more than anything else. But what I received, even when I would go visit my grandfather's church back in Bloomingdale, Georgia, in the back sticks and woods, they were considered a holiness church, and all of the conversation was about holiness or hell, right? Do this or these are your consequences. Your life after this is going to be of suffering, of gnashing of teeth, and all of that. And so the basis of the conversation was always about how awful things would be if I didn't get have a certain insight. Welcome to all of you who are jumping on here with us at the Love Walk Approach. I am your host, the Inspirational Treasure. Some may know me as Apostle Shalonda Treasure, Coach Treasure, Prophet Shalonda Treasure Williams Lenara, best-selling author on Amazon. Well, however you know me, welcome to this space. Please go ahead and share, and let's build this space authentically with those that you believe need to hear this message as we commune together. But so I had this teaching and this upbringing, but there were some sparks in there that lit me. you know I think I lived with a lot of guilt and shame and all of these things for a long time. I was the girl who didn't have a problem with going to the altar every single time, because probably the hour before or the day before or days before that, I had done something that made me feel guilty once I came and sat in the church. And some people would say, well, that was conviction, it was just God telling you to get yourself together and all of that. But I didn't feel conviction in the sense of, this is what I believe to be true, and I went against that. I felt guilt, shame because of the teachings. I felt fear that God hated me, that God did not like me, that nothing that I could do would ever be good enough for him. So how many of you have that testimony at all? If you don't, I understand. Some of you didn't grow up in church, but however long you've been in church, or in any religious community, have you grown up with this guilt complex, this fear-based complex of, this God just hates, he hates me, or every conversation about what God hates this, God hates that, this is an abomination, that is wrong, this is bad. How many of you grew up with the fear-based consciousness, a fear-based teaching focused on the sins of yourself, as opposed to how loved you were by God? And you can be honest in this space, unless you're a little nervous about who may see. But let's see. Let's get some interaction here and talk to me a little bit. So with this particular complex for myself, as you answered me, there was just this little spark in there somewhere when we would talk about Christ Yahshua, or who we were taught under the name of Jesus. And there was just this little something in me that's like, there seems to be a little bit something more. Christian, thank you for sharing that, man. Thank you. There and I know he's telling the truth, because we had a whole experience one day where I was like, oh my God, like, are you that afraid? And I get it. I absolutely get it. Come on, y'all, be honest. Some of you may have had a whole different experience. Maybe your experience wasn't fear-based. Maybe you just fully adopted what you were being taught, and it didn't make you feel afraid at all. It just made you feel like, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is the way it is. And a lot of times those outlooks and perspectives come because we also go through that same thing at home, where fear-based teaching is all we get. And there's not really much show of love and affection and all of that. And so then our idea of God is cramped into the perception that we were given. But there was that spark in there for me, the spark where we would learn about Christ Yahshua, and I would see his manner and his way, right? The way that he walked throughout the life in the scriptures, as far as we can see him. Of course, we know that we don't know the whole stories. We were not there for the whole stories, and we're really going based off of other people's testaments and testimonies. But from what we did gather in those scriptures, I was just kind of like, yeah, just it just seemed like there's something else. And not only that, when I would experience other people in life outside of church, say at school or at a store, I was always intrigued, right? Intrigued by other people's habits or their practices. If I saw someone, maybe a Quaker, or I saw a Jehovah's Witness, or I saw a Muslim, someone on the corner handing out the final call, or just different people from different walks of life, it intrigued me dealing and talking to other people, because the perspective of hating others because they were not Christian, I just couldn't subscribe to. Right? It was just difficult. It was difficult for me to subscribe to shunning other people, mistreating other people. And a lot of it came because I was raised by a very loving mom. I had a loving mother, and I had love around me with my family, my friends, my siblings. And of course, not necessarily always feeling supported, because I'm a different type of individual, but definitely feeling loved. Left out of home, went into the school system, ended up feeling like, oh yeah, my family must have been lying to me all this time, because people absolutely hate me. Like, obviously God is supposed to hate me, right? And then so I had this thought, though, that yeah, something's just different, because when I would encounter people, no matter how they acted with me, no matter how bad it seemed, it was always something in them that drew me. Like there's something else in you. This mean face, this thing that you're showing me, this bullying that you're doing, all of that, it has to be something deeper than that. Even if I would get angry about something that was done for me, it would not last for a long period of time. I would remember, but I wouldn't be angry anymore because there was just something else. Blessings, Jayana. Good to see you here. And so this mindset, this concept of like, so I'm being taught about a God that is, and by the way, for those of you who see Christ Yahshua and the great I am as one from your teachings, I'm not trying to navigate your thought process. Anything that you hear in this space is purely from my perspective, based on my experience, and you can take the meat and leave the bones. All right, however you view it is up to you. But they were always separate in my mind, separate as I didn't see Jesus as all divinity, because I needed to understand him from the humanistic perspective to make it real for me, right? And so this picture that was painted was a God who was vicious and angry and made you suffer all the time, and he hated everything about you. And again, it didn't make sense to me, because in my mind, how do you create something just to hate it? Right? How do you create something just to hate me? How do you create me to live this life just to give me free will, right? But it's not really free will. I got free will. I can do what I choose, but you're going to make me afraid to make a different choice, a choice that doesn't line up with these teachings that I have. So what's really free about my will? Yeah, y'all, these are the questions that came up for me. And if you can relate, you can please comment. Make sure you do say something and let me know that you can relate to any part of this. But I just had this thought, like, just something about it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel real. And I remember learning about Yahshua when he spoke to the teachers of religious law. Now, this really jacked me up, y'all, because I'm like, well, he's talking to the religious people, but yet we are here as religious people preaching something, and I'm like, wait, which one is it? Is like he religious? Is Jesus religious and he's teaching us about these religious things, or is he talking to the religious people and trying to get them to have a different mindset or operate a little bit differently? And they started asking him all these questions, trying to trip him up and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, it seems like to me his responses to them are a little bit different than the responses and the messages that I've been hearing all my life. And so I'm asking these questions and just really in my private time, asking these questions with God, like, something's just not right. Please help me to understand a little bit more. And so there were a few verses, and I won't go through all of them, that really helped me bring it all together for myself back when I was very young. But because of the fear-based teachings, I've been afraid my whole life to step out and say anything outside of the scope of the lane that I grew up in. Somebody else may be able to relate to that too. It was kind of like, maybe, nope. Okay, I can't say that. Nope, I won't say that, because, I grew up in this. I know what would happen if I said anything that seemed to be too off and too different than what it is that we grew up with. Because the teachings, again, were more about separatism, more about coming out from among other people. But the messages that I was receiving, the downloads that I was receiving from God, had everything to do with bringing it all back together. And so Love Walk Outreach Global is the name of the ministry that he gave me. At one time, it was Love Walk Motivation Services, and it's always been a Love Walk situation with me. But when he gave me the Love Walk approach in the book that I released last year, which was What If God Is All of Us? Considering the Love Walk approach to social justice and global healing, he began to allow me to release a lot of the revelation that he's been giving me over the years. Do not be afraid of their faces. Just teach what it is that I'm giving you, because this is a message that has been delivered over the ages through different human incarnations, but all based on the divine Christ mind, the Christ spirit that teaches us what? That love is the greatest commandment. Well, how do you know that? Well, I read it. And It was revealed in my prayer time, prophetically and spiritually. It was revealed that this is what brings it all together, but it must be understood, and everybody's still going to see it through different lenses. But let's go back to what was taught. And so the religious community, or the Sadducees and Pharisees, would come and they would try to trip Jesus up in these conversations, because he was teaching something that was a little bit radical. It was a attempt for reformation, for deconstruction, in order for reconstruction to happen. He said, I came to set the captives free. And so if everything that they had learned growing up in the religious community was everything that needed to be known, then there would not have needed to be a reformation or a deconstruction in order to build up. And so I had to tap into that space and not be afraid of what it is that may be said or done. And so the love walk approach is simply this: love walks among us, as us, and for us. Love walks among us, as us, and for us. What do you mean? Well, the revelations begin to come to me in a few different verses. Number one, Moses at one point about to embark on his purpose and his one of his assignments to set the captive free, right? They were literally in as far as the scriptures are concerned, and in the history, they were in a physical situation of captivity, of slavery, of bondage. And Moses has the assignment now to go and set these captives free. Well, they're his family, and he has to go back to his other family, the family that he was adopted into. And he has to, oh God, okay, today I'm gonna have to take my time and teach this a little bit, because I definitely feel this on another level. But he has to go to the family that he was adopted into, the one that he was raised with, the one that he was loved by in this royal family. And he has to say to them, let my other family, or let my people, let the Hebrews go. He did not, I don't know whether they taught him growing up that he was a Hebrew, that he was from a different mother. I don't know how they had that conversation. But he eventually finds out that he is not of the royal family by blood, but he is of a different family altogether. His mother was this person, and this is what she did to save his life. And so he gets this liberation, or he comes to himself, where he starts exploring this person that he is now, and he's starting to tap into God and have these conversations. And so now he's beginning to identify with this bloodline. Now, this may be vice versa for some. Some of you may have had a very good relationship with your biological family, blood family, but then you come to yourself, and your assignment now is to an entirely different group of people who will now be your family in some way, shape, or form. Or you are called to set these captives free, right? There's always that space where now you have to stand in the middle and make a decision. Are you going to do what is driven by the heart, that thing that causes justice, that thing that is correct or right, as we would call it? Or are you going to keep your loyalty to a system of captivity, a system of bondage? Y'all go ahead and ask yourself these questions. Some of y'all are probably already right down at that place. It's kind of the conversation he was having with the disciples when he was calling them out. He let them know, like, if you follow me, you're gonna have to release some things. You're gonna have to release some family, some friends, some situations, because this is what we're doing right here. We're going to set captives free. And some people do not want to be free, and others do not want the captives to be free because they can no longer control the narrative. And so these assignments are given, and a choice is made as to which heart you're gonna have. Y'all being real quiet. Let me know that y'all are listening. Let me know that y'all are hearing me. Let me know that you are picking up what I am putting down, or at least contemplating the words that I'm giving you. And so we have Moses. He has to go on this assignment to set these people free. And he asked the question, well, whom should I say sent me? Because now you're dealing in the spiritual. You're not dealing with these physical beings. See, you can say, if Pharaoh sent you to give a message, you can say, Pharaoh sent me to give this message. Keep sharing, why don't you? And if you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe to the podcast. So you can you can say, well, Pharaoh sent me to give you this message, and it makes sense. But when you have to say to somebody, this invisible presence, this spiritual presence, I hear voices, right? You have people who are like, yeah, how do we know that's authentic? So he says, who should I say sent me? And God is saying, tell them that I am that I am. Tell them that I am sent you. Revelation number 1 for me. I am that I am. Sounds like to me God is saying that he's everything, he's whatever, he's however, right? He's everything and he's nothing. There's no definition to I am. It just simply is. It just simply is. So this was one of those first things, like, there's just something more to that, right? Something more to it. Even when I was reading the scriptures and they were talking about the different gods and different versions, and there was still something more to it for me. And so then what else happens? Well, I read about Jesus, and he's saying, they're asking him about the commandments and all the teachings of old. And they're saying, which one is the most important one? Which one is the greatest one? And then he sums it all up for them and says, listen, love is the greatest one. Love God, the great I am, with all that you are, and love your neighbor as yourself. And on these 2 laws hang all the laws and all the prophets. So everything that has ever been taught, every word from every prophet that's ever been spoken, was spoken to the effect of, this is how you live. This is how you treat others. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. Don't do anything to a person that would harm them, because love does no ill to its neighbor. And so again, all of these things are being gathered for me. And then Romans 14 comes in and says, hey, every man must be convinced within themselves. So in other words, this is not supposed to be a walk of bondage. This is supposed to be a walk of true free will, because only faith can come from what you truly believe, what you've experienced, what you truly believe, and what your mindset is set to. So again, you got your heart that has been broken, and so you are living based on the narrative of a broken heart, and that's all you see. So it took me back to think, okay, so where did this message, this fear-based message, come from? The fear-based message, where did it come from? And so it took me back, and I think I shared this when we were doing the 100 Days of Prayer. But God began to show me the slavery mindset, right? As an African American woman, and those who grew up in any culture that experienced slavery, we know the narrative of slavery, the narrative of what was done to us, the narrative of the wickedness in the land has been one of those conversations that we've been having pretty much our whole lives, or hearing about it our whole lives. We've magnified the slavery that we've gone through. And please don't get it twisted. Understanding that we have had experiences, there's nothing wrong with teaching history so people are aware. But it's become such a narrative to the point where we only talk about that thing that has enslaved us and the fight that we're trying to have to free. And then as a Christian, growing up fundamentalist Christian, we learn about them that was in slavery being set free. There's been this teaching about slavery for so long, but it's been taught from the perspective of the slave. It's been taught from the perspective of the one who has felt enslaved. And so everything that they teach us is going to be based on that slavery mentality, not from the perspective of the one that has already been freed. And this is where Christ Joshua and many of the other vessels who've come to give this message, they were speaking from a place of liberation and freedom, whereas we're still getting the narrative and the conversation from those who have been enslaved. Y'all can say, well, dang, or y'all can say, I got it. Y'all can say, Nadia says she's all ears. Got it. So we're taught this narrative. And what happens when you've been programmed to believe something? That's all you know. That's all you know. And here's the other fact. We learn from those who have come before us for a reason, so that we can get some wisdom to navigate life. In other words, hey, there's a swamp coming up in about 2 or 3 miles. There are alligators in that swamp, and they do come out of the water and walk the land a little bit. So be careful around that area. That is a different conversation than saying, oh, it's a swamp 2 to 3 miles from here, and them alligators be coming out that water, so you might not want to go that way. You might want to go around and go a whole different way. No, the one who teaches you how to be wise and to know how to navigate the places that you are going into, that is called wise counsel, getting this information from those that come before you. But they didn't evoke fear in you. They evoke preparation. Not an attitude of separation and negativity. They didn't teach you to hate all of one race. They didn't teach you that you don't trust any of them because you don't know how this is going to turn out. They let you know to use discernment and be aware of the heart of the individual that you're coming in contact with. And there's a difference. And so many of us have been walking in this place of slavery mentality and bondage for so long that we only live based on fear. And so instead of us looking, and I knew that y'all probably thought that I wasn't going to tie this all in, but I'm always going to tie it all in. But instead of us beginning to live from a place of heart-centeredness, seeing individuals based on the heart of who they are, just like we want people to do for us, right? We don't want people to lump us all in with one group of people, or all women are the same. Ain't none of them gonna let you really be the man in your relationship, or let you be the one that has any. They all the same, or every man is the same. Child, they all gonna hurt you in the end anyway. So you might as well not listen. I raised some amazing sons that have a heart. And I'm not saying they will always be perfect, but I am saying that they will make decisions based on how another person is going to feel about it, because they were raised to be considerate. And even as they grow and navigate through their life, they probably will have more tug of war with being considerate of others. You know, trying to find that balance between making sure you love yourself, but you love your neighbor as yourself. Just teaching the principle. So every man isn't the same. And the man that you may have encountered who gave you some pain, this is where empathy begins to come in. This is where empathy begins to come in. So we said today we're going to talk about vibrant empathy. And remember, I said that love walks among us, as us, and for us. And that, from all of the revelations that I received, God is all. I am that I am. He's all things at the same time, all the time. There is no separation. I heard said that he was omnipresent. What you say? He's omnipresent. What you say? He is omnipresent, which means that he is everywhere at once, which cannot exclude anything, but must include everything. The things that we can see and the things that we cannot. And there's also a place where it says, if you know not love, you know not God, because God is love. What you say? So this vengeful, hateful, jealous, awful God that I've been taught is going to punish me for everything that I do, every decision that I make. He's love. So God is omnipresent and God is love, then love is omnipresent. Love is everywhere. It is the very thing that we are trying to uncover or unlock within ourselves, with the piles and piles and piles of life experience on top of us that we need to weed through or swim through to get to that top place where the people who were teaching from victory live. And this is that mind that was in Christ Joshua. The mind of liberty, the mind of understanding that I and the Father are one, we are the same. And somebody taught us that was just for Jesus. But the reality is that if this mind is in us, that's also in Christ Joshua, who thought it not robbery to count himself as equal with God, then obviously that's the mindset that we're supposed to have. Now, don't get it twisted to thinking that that means that you are the all in all, you are the great I am, all in of itself. No. And here's the magic to the message. We all make up that thing. We are the unique expressions of God in the earth, but we are not different than another expression. We're unique. We have differences. We have different qualities, but we all make up the greater whole. So the two questions that we ask on this podcast, number one, what if God is all of us? And number two, what their heart look like? Why those two questions? Because when I consider that God is all things at the same time, all the time, then the way that I handle you is going to be a little bit different. because now I'm not seeing you as a separate part of me. I'm respecting your unique qualities, your uniqueness that you bring to the table, but you ain't separate from me. We are all just unique parts of a whole. All of my 6 biological children know they come from me physically, biologically. Are they unique expressions? But they all come from this one body. I carried them all in my womb. Unique expressions. But God is even just outside of explaining a parental type of situation, God is more than just the parent. God is the originator, the expressor of all that exists. And with that said, it's kind of like having this one body that I have, and my heart and my lungs and my liver and my eyes and every little tiny piece that goes with the body that makes it work together for good. The feet in sync with each other, the brain in sync with the feet, everything working together so that blood is running through every part of my body. And so the signals in my brain is sending the messages to every part of my body that needs to be able to function. It works together for good. So then when there's pain in the body, all of a sudden my sensors begin to go off to where that part of the body has pain. And then you get that part seen about. If it's emotional, you see about the emotional pain. If it's physical, you see about the physical pain. You find out what it is that's causing an upset to the body, and you heal it. The only part of the body that ends up getting cut off is the part of the body that will not have a reaction. In other words, it's going to cause more death to the body than it will life. And so therefore it cuts itself off. It stops responding. It stops working. So it comes off as to not affect the rest of the body. That sounds totally different than some of the fear-based conversations that we have. So what happens if you hurt your left foot? Your right foot instinctively begins to take on the weight or the burden of what the left foot would have been able to do. You start putting a little bit more pressure on that right foot because the left foot can no longer function. The strong part has to bear the infirmity of the weak part. And the weak part needs to be seen about, and it needs to be healed so that it can in turn now help the right foot again. So that the right foot doesn't get so weary that it itself begins to hurt. Here is where vibrant empathy comes in. The right foot instinctively wants to compensate for what the left foot cannot do if it is hurt. The love walk approach is this. I know that there will be times when other parts of the body have pain, and I'm not here to judge the pain. I'm just here to compensate for what it cannot do until it is strong enough to do what it needs to. It sees through a different set of lenses, and it was automatic. As soon as you get up, if your left foot is hurt, your right foot, it's almost like that limp. Everybody know what it feels like when you start to limp a little bit, right? When you get up and it hurts and what happens? You immediately the right foot becomes a little bit stronger. It has more strength than you knew it had, because the whole time when it's right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot is working together, it's sync, each part is strong, it doesn't matter. But as soon as a part is weakened, the other part automatically compensates. When we have vibrant empathy, empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Empathy is taking yourself away from your own thoughts for just 1 minute to say, you know what, this part right here, there's something going on with this other part of me. Because we are one. God is but one. There's something going on with another part of me. Let me kick in. But what has happened? What's happened in the world is that empathy is one of the things that we think about and consider last, because we don't even want to be able to relate to what somebody else is going through, because in our minds we are fully convinced of the bondage narrative. We're so in survival mode, we're so in self-preservation mode, that we forget that there's a whole body that must function. The right foot didn't ask to get off of your body when it had to compensate for the left foot. It just automatically adjusted. Empathy looks through the eyes of another individual. And can I say this? Even if it seems like they are the most horrible person that you've ever met, and you, of course, are judging it based on your narrative, because there's somebody else that sees that person and they see something totally different. That's why they have people that they still are in commune with, friends and family and other people that can still bubble with them. Because another person doesn't view them the way that you do, but you see them and you think they are totally horrible. Can I tell you the reason why you probably think they're totally horrible is because they did something or said something that went against what you perceive as the right thing. We all have a perception of what the right thing is. So when we look at another individual and it seems like they are not doing what we believe is the right thing, then our empathy totally cuts off. We don't even want to know, or we don't care why they did what they did or why they said what they said. All we know is it's not what we would do. All we know is that we don't care about the pain, we don't care about the trauma, we don't care about the fact that not just their left foot is messed up, but they left foot, they right foot, they lung, their emotions, everything. So they no longer have anything that can compensate for the next thing. And so what happens in that regard? Well, most of the time is now that they have to go a little bit further. No longer is it about their physical form anymore. It's about something way deeper. And now their spirit is the left foot. Their unique expression is left foot. And it's hurting. And they need that right foot in the spirit to be able to kick in. They need for someone who is living according to this, the love walk or the mind of Christ, to be able to say, oh, hey, they hurting over there. That's why they responded that way. Oh, they were triggered by something that was said. And here's the problem, though, and I say problem lightly, but here's the problem that love is the solution for. Love understands that every part has a place, and that when one part is weak, then the other part immediately responds and reacts. But when the entire body or the entire spiritual body feels broken, then who's compensating for what? Who's compensating for what? We are not separate. God is but one. To me, y'all, it's no way. And this is just for me. I cannot look at God the same way ever again, because I didn't really look at him different then, but now I'm bolder in standing in my confidence that there is no way, not in my heart, that God would ever create me just to hate me. But every need, every part supplies something that it's meant to supply, even if it has to be the part of us that takes the waste, the toxins, absorbs them. There are pieces in our body, pieces in this greater whole that absorbs the toxicities, that takes it all in. And so somebody may look at that part as all dirty and unclean and unwashed, but it's been the part that's taken all of the negative and taken all of the awful things and the bad treatments, and it's taking all of the hate from the body and it's absorbing it all. So you may look at it and say, oh, that's so nasty, that's so unclean, but you do not know the story of that part, of that unique expression. So we judge it and mistreat it and we mishandle it, and we become the very thing that we despise. But when empathy kicks in, empathy understands that there are parts of the body that were created or made manifest in order to absorb the toxin, There are parts of the body that were intended, created to not just because the heart pumps the blood, but it's the veins that work with the heart in order to get the blood to the rest of the body so that the rest of the body can survive. And so there is a system where the waste that was absorbed in the body must naturally release itself. So there are laws in this universe. God created them, God put them in place. And that means whatever it is that you sow, whatever you put out there, is whatever you're going to get back. So he sets these laws and these rules in motion. And it works for every individual. There is no respecter of person. It works for all. Love reminds us of this. So when we begin to look at an individual and we begin to say, you know what? I mean, I went through some things. I can understand. If you can relate to anybody, it's the person that you scrolling and you see something they saying and you like, ooh, child, I can relate to that. Right? Because they're speaking to your pain point. I ain't never gonna do this again because this, and this. And you like, ooh, child, because I can relate. I can empathize. I can see through your eyes. But most of us only see through the eyes of a person that we can relate to, and that's it. But empathy goes a bit further. Empathy starts to look through the eyes of the individual that you would never even think remotely like. I didn't grow up in the suburbs where everything was given to me, handed to me, and my family had all the money in the world. And see, the person who became that rich, some of them are born into it, but there are some of them who said, I will never go through poverty or homelessness or be hungry or anything ever again. And so I'm going to get this and give it to my children so that my children never have to worry again. Well, what happens? That child now has no empathy for the person who's never had anything. Because that parent kind of ran away from it because they despised it and they hated it. They never tried to understand it. And so now they do the total opposite. And the child never understands. So when they meet someone at their school or they meet someone at the bus stop or they meet, not the bus stop because they driving, or somebody driving them around. I'm just giving scenario. But they meet somebody by happenstance. We've seen the movies. And they know of this individual. In the courts, in some movies, they do this. They make a person who's been in all this trouble as a wealthy kid. They make them go and to a shelter or to a foster home or something and live through the life of someone else. Are y'all hearing me today? And empathy says, I'm walking through this as if I'm you. Whew. I would, and at first, depending on what type of personality the child has, they may walk into these circumstances and have their nose tooted up and like, oh my God, I can never do this. I can never live this way. And what God is doing in scenarios like this is he's saying, you never know if you did have to go through it. How would you want to be treated? If you did have to go through poverty, how would you want to be treated? So let me show you what it looks like to go through poverty. Some of us are afraid of the things that may come in our lives because what God is doing is saying, nope, I need you to go ahead and experience this real quick. Oh, it feels devastating to us. We feel like the world is crumbling all around us when we have to go through certain experiences that somebody has to live every single day. Somebody has to live it every single day. So God then causes us to be empathetic. And my kids totally may despise me for this until they are old enough to really understand it. But they don't get to just bring me any story. They don't just get to tell me half a story. They don't just get to tell me their perspective and that's it. I care about their perspective, so I'm willing to hear their perspective. But then when it comes to what they have been done to another individual, I need you to take your lenses off real quick and put their lenses off. How would you have felt if they said this to you? How would you have felt if this happened to you? My older kids, I want them to see through the eyes of the younger kids. Do you remember when you were that age? Did you like being treated like this? Did you like being bullied by your siblings or being talked down to the by them? No, so don't do it to the other ones. And then the younger ones, hey, I know you have not been their age yet, but especially with my 11-year-old, she has Christian because he's 9, and so you have just that little bit of space, but she's older, so she begins to understand through experience and experience alone. Through experience and experience alone. So God's empathy, and I said vibrant, and I'm gonna leave that last piece to last, because right now everything I'm saying don't make you feel like you want to actually do it. Maybe you tapping in. But some of y'all are like, man, I don't want to care about what's going on through their eyes, because this is what I'm experiencing, and I'm going through this, and I'm going through this, and I'm going through this, and I'm going through this. Can I tell y'all that what I'm going through right now in my life will probably make some of y'all be like, whoosh, I'm good on that. I'm good on all those experiences at one time. Right? We read the story of Job in the scriptures. We read the story of Joseph in the scriptures. We read the story of Christ Joshua in the scriptures, and we like, I don't ever want to go through that. You don't want to think about empathy because you really want everybody to just understand your plight and what you're going through and what you're dealing with. But can I tell you that the only way for us to really, really solve that problem we were talking about in this earth is to begin to see through the eyes and the lenses of the great I am, the one that sees and lives every perspective. So you may not understand suburban, what it means to live in the gutter, until you experience a gutter of your own. And in your life, that may be that no longer are y'all in 7 figures, but you done went down to 6 figures. And that's like, whoa. Because once you done had to, can I tell y'all, once I had that 100 in chemistry, the 99 looked crazy to me. Yes, I do that to y'all too. I do it to myself. You know, and I do it to myself because, and I'm not perfect at it, because sometimes I want to fold up my arms and stomp and cry and scream. And I do have places where I may be able to do that with somebody who empathizes. But the majority of the time, it's a self-check. It's a heart check. Because listen, I understand what it feels like to be mistreated. So the empathy in me says, you know what? Before you get too irate, before you go from 0 to 100, Shalon, to try your best to stay low key. Don't snap off. And it took me a while to get to that place, because once you've been bullied for so long, your instinct is to get real hard and get real tough and make sure people know they can't keep messing with you like that, right? That's your instinct, because you're trying to preserve and you're trying to survive. Then you want to only like the people who like you. And then the scriptures come in that say, I mean, what benefit, what advantage do you have if you only love those who love you? That's not no advantage at all. When you're growing into full maturity, which is love, right? Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Our Father in heaven is in that spiritual realm, in spirit and truth, is love. So love would be perfection. It would be the ultimate maturity. But to live from that perspective, you're doing nothing but empathizing. Nadia done said it too. It's the truth. You're walking through as another. Ooh. It's intense. And I know it's intense, y'all. Please, my coaches, mentees, those who I cover in ministry, my spiritual daughters and sons or whatever, y'all, they get the same thing that my biological kids get. My husband get it from me. Sometimes he just be sitting and looking like that. But everybody gets it from me because I don't really know how to communicate differently. Everything in me awakens when someone is going through something. And it's no respecter of persons, because, and I'm going to tell y'all this, and it's going to be real intense, and we're going to get to this when we get to another one of the pillars. But God's vision, God's view, God's perspective doesn't have nothing to do with just you and yours. Through God's lenses, God is seeing every perspective. Y'all ever seen a movie where one of those things, they used to have one of those things we can look through, and it has all these different cuts and stuff in it. So you're seeing like a million things and it's only one object. Oh God. You can see a million things because of the way that the glass is cut. But it's only one. If you move the thing off your eye, it's one object. It's a scope. I forgot what scope was called, but we used to love it because we used to turn it and it used to be colorful, but it used to be a whole bunch of different things. God sees like that. And for us, it looks like chaos when we're looking through this lens of one. Like if we're the only person. When we're looking through that thing, it looks like chaos. But to God, it is perfect order. Everything that exists because God decided that it should. Made manifest. And so when you only get half the story, when you're only looking through your lenses, guess what's going to happen? You're never going to be able to see the full picture. And then here comes the truth. You're either going to choose to stay isolated forever, not ever dealing with anything that another individual. Do you notice that the way the world is right now is we keep creating things that makes us more divided? Now, I think some things have an advantage. I love virtual. I love internet. I love how it can bring everybody together into one room or whatever the case might be. And in actuality, it could be a way for us to start living in spirit and in truth. So we don't get to judge people from their appearance. But it's also something that most of us use to hide away. Because we don't want to encounter people, not because we just are having a not so great day, but we don't want to encounter people because we don't want them to mess up our idea of what life should be. And we have a bunch of people teaching us from their broken places. Yeah, child, leave that alone. Let it be. Cut that off. No. You ain't got to deal with that. You ain't got to deal with this. We got people and this is what the scriptures mean when it says people shall become lovers of themselves. It's not saying that we should have no self-love. It's saying that we become lovers of ourselves because now we're only thinking about us. The empathy has gone. A kaleidoscope, absolutely. But the empathy has gone. So we create businesses only thinking about us and our bottom line, and that's it. We create items and we do things and we don't care whether we shortchange people on those items or not. I mean, I have a lot of commentary. I mean, I've done a lot of studies about business and about coaching, about all that. And most of the stuff is teaching us how to only think about you and yours. But the truth is, real community thinks about it all. If I do this, this might affect this. With my children, one of my main goals was to, one, not make my family responsible for any decisions that I made. Because growing up, I was dealing with whatever I was dealing with without having a name for it. And I made a lot of reckless decisions, trying to fill the void that was inside of me. Well, when I started having children, I didn't want to make my family responsible for me having children. I laid down to have them. I wanted to be responsible for raising them. And I also had this certain level of empathy for the children because I had watched a lot of stories about mothers and fathers who had to give their kids away. And they made the judgment call because they felt like, hey, I won't be able to give them this life, so I need to give them to somebody that could. But I also watched the stories with the people who were on the other side of that, the children themselves who were saying, why didn't my mommy or daddy love me enough to keep me? They didn't care about the circumstances. All they wanted was the parent. And the parent in their mind thinking, hey, if I do this, I'm going to give them a better life. And they may not understand it now, but they may understand it later. Some of them never understood it. Everybody's seeing through their own lenses. Well, for me, I want to raise them until adulthood. I want to be there for them through the highs and the lows of their life. And I don't want to separate them as siblings because I watched that happen too. And so I made decisions based on what I thought was best. Even in me going through the things I was going through, hey, we can go through these things together because this is what love does. Love doesn't see a pretty picture all the time. Love sees the entire picture. We learn how to take each other as we are so they'll know how to live with other people when they go out there in them streets. That was my idea. Well, perspective is everything, ain't it? Because when we're in something, we always want the opposite of what we're in for the most part. Oh, I wish it would have been this. Oh, I wish it would have been that. Because if it was this, then I would have had this, and I would have had this, and this would have been better, and I would have had. And we have those ideas And so then we grow up and we try to do something different, or we want to change it, because we do not look through the eyes of another individual. We only see what we choose to see. The love walk approach is not telling you that you will not have your own thoughts, your own. As a matter of fact, that's the first part of your journey, to recognize that I am not separate from the greater whole. I am on purpose. I am in purpose. I am for purpose. God is walking through this life as me, for me, right? Because when another person comes and give you their strength, then that's God responding to your prayer, responding to your issue, responding to your thing, your wound that needs to be healed. And you in turn are that for someone else. It's the greater whole. It's the body working together. The new heaven and new earth. We heard about it growing up. If you grew up in church at all, if you had any amount of time in well, not even just church, because, and I don't know about other worship centers or whatever, or what they fully teach. I'm in the process of learning a lot of it, but I know Christianity because that's where I grew up. But the whole sum of it, once you research for yourself, study to show yourself approved, is that, hey, make that judgment and cause this whole disarray. But if you change this mindset, if every heart begins to see the same, if every heart begins to see from a place of collective victory, then a new heaven, new earth comes. The kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven comes. Now, it tells us in the scripture that the kingdom of heaven is within us. The kingdom of God is within us. But they talk about the kingdom of God as something that is outside of us too. In Second Chronicles, where God says, listen, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, pray, see my face, right? Turn from their wicked ways, turn from that tainted heart. Then I can hear from heaven and heal the land, the entire land. Jesus says, let thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Some may look at this as figurative and some as literal. Whatever you do, it's up to you, what you relate to. For me, it's in spirit and in truth that I think about it. So when I see the new heaven and the new earth, I see a world where empathy is at the forefront of everything. Next week, we're going to talk about offering generous forgiveness. Forgiveness and empathy, it works hand in hand on this love walk, because, hey, I know I've been jacked up too in my decisions. Yes, Nadia. I made some jacked up decisions. Another reason why I didn't want to leave my kids with anybody else is because I saw the struggle that my family had trying to raise each other's kids. And now, mind you, this is not a problem. This is that strong bear the infirmity of the weak. When they see that you're weak in an area and they take them because they need it or whatever the case might be, there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones who took responsibility for themselves said, you know what? I made this decision. I'm going to deal with it. And if ever I am in a weak position and you're going to help me, that's cool. But I saw the stress on their backs. Not only did my mom take in different people in their times of weakness, but the entire side of the Williams family, my aunts, that's what they did. They raised each other's kids. They raised the kids of their children. They raised their siblings' kids. They did whatever. They were the strength for each other in weak times. But I also saw the stress and I heard the complaints. And so in my mind, I don't want to put that on anybody else. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out together. But here's another part where empathy comes in. When you realize that times are shifting and changing, so obviously, God, you're trying to cause something on purpose. And here's where I say that love allows. And empathy will cause us to allow a situation, even if we don't fully understand it. You ever heard the saying, if you love a thing, you'll let it go? If it's yours, it'll come back. That's love allowing. Free will is not a trick. It's not a trick. We have it absolutely, totally, and completely. How you choose to worship, what you choose to wear, what you choose to eat, how you choose to view life, all of that is your decision. When you start to live according to spirit and truth, then you start, adopting the mindset of the Christ mind, and you start looking at things from a collective position and not just a singular me, myself, and I position. So you start making decisions based on different things. This may hurt me, but it's better for them. I'm going to say that again. This may hurt me, it's better for them. Is that not the whole statement that we've learned about the cross? The sacrifice for all mankind, so that sin is not a factor. Some people say, well, that all sins are forgiven. Yeah, so why we keep regurgitating them? Why we keep talking about them all the time? Why do we keep pointing out everybody's faults, flaws, and sins? The Christ mind didn't do that. Christ didn't go around pointing out their sins. If they brought up something, he would give instruction. When he taught about who we could be, who we were. So if this is the case and the sacrifice has been made, the pain that has already been endured, why is it that we're still living the pain? Why is it that the focus is still on everybody's faults, flaws, and shortcomings? Why is it that we can't give to other people what is that we desire? We want love. We want acceptance. We want to be allowed to make our own decisions so that we can navigate through life on our own. And at certain places, of course, everything has its phases. Try to take my children through their phases, through the different levels based on age and maturity and all of that. Because you can handle this at that level, but at this level right here, this may totally break your back. I ain't mad if it put a little pressure on your body, because you need that to build some muscles and some resistance. But if it's going to crack your back, I need to be paying attention. You think you need that right now, but that's not what you need. So we look through all these different lenses, all to come back to the place of, hey, instead of me judging everybody for everything, how about I take the time to understand why they made that choice? Was it because they were afraid? More than likely. Somebody says the opposite of love is not necessarily hate. The opposite of love is fear. That makes so much sense, because love is all giving, it's all encompassing, it covers all things. Love cares about justice. It has no respect of person, because it needs the just thing to be done. But fear seeks its own. I'm afraid that this may happen, so I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to get you before you get me. I'm going to talk about you before you talk about me. I'm going to post about you before you post about me. I'm going to fire you before you can tell anybody what I did. Or I'm going to shut up with this message. Or I'm going to make you afraid of saying anything. Fear doesn't allow us to live in love, because love is all giving. It's a free fall of trust. Because I already counted the cost that this left leg might be hurting, so I might have to compensate for it. So yeah, I know that somebody may hurt my feelings in a conversation, but I won't let it hurt in my heart, because I understand the reason why they probably said what they said and did what they did is because they felt triggered by something from the past. So instead of me hating them for who they are, or instead of me being afraid of them for who they are, then empathy says, hey, tap in a little bit deep. Maybe you'll be able to apply some of that love to that situation, and they won't feel as pained anymore. Well, some people get weary with it. They get tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do that. Because we're tired of feeling hurt. Well, here's the situation. Everybody's trying to do it on their own. Thus, the pain has grown. There's an agony in this world, a grief in this world that is so thick and so heavy, because everybody's trying to figure out how to do it themselves. My team sometimes is like, Coach T, you might have to do this, and you're going to have to, nope, I got to make room for all. Those who can afford this and those who can't. The motto must stand, because there's somebody who's a king that has no money right now. There's a queen that has no money right now. There's an artist that has no money right now, but they are meant to be great. And at this level, hey, I got to sow, I got to give, I got to sow, I got to give. Well, how much is too much? There is none. Jesus, they talk about us giving without expectation. Give to all who ask. And when I don't give, it's because something in me says, no, now is not the time. They are going through an experience. So you can't give in this situation. It happens. But my narrative, my heart, my mind is set up to automatically be able to bear burden of the weak. Because empathy, it reminds me of the time where I was being treated cruel and I needed somebody to see it and stand up and say, no, 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 don't do that to her. But everybody was so busy trying to preserve themselves that they shut themselves off, and then people begin to suffer around us. And now we have a world full of people who are suffering, struggling with grief and with pain, with traumas that they can't seem to shake, because love is hidden away and tucked in of all of us. But this is the hour, and now is, where they that worship God must do so in spirit and in truth. And the truth is that love is the greatest commandment. And all of these things that separate us are delusions based on preferences. But what happens when I can respect your preference and you respect my preference? And if I raised you in a certain way and you don't relate to that when you get older, it's okay for you to go and seek what you need to seek for yourself. And I'm not going to hold you in bondage, because if I do, then that is me taking away your free will, and I can't and won't. So with everything that's going on in my life right now, these decisions still have to be made. Everything in me wants to tuck in and hide myself and say, you know what? I will not allow myself to be hurt and broken by people anymore. I won't allow people to manipulate the situation for their own selfish gain and not think about how it's going to affect me. And I want to stand up sometimes and say, no, it's not going to happen. And in some cases, God may allow it. He may allow a whole conversation to happen that way. But I still got to revert back to, hey, don't allow that broken heart of yours to speak for you in every situation, because if you do, you're going to miss the ones that are coming who do want to be connected. You won't be open for them if you allow these things to cause you pain and to keep you in bondage. Do you remember what it was like when you wanted something so bad that you were always willing to do anything to get it? You ain't had no consideration for whether it might hurt. The things that I might have said in argument with my mom, it was from my emotions, from my pain. It didn't register to me that it could have hurt her so bad. Oh, as soon as my heart got in check, I was right back to apologizing, repenting, whatever we want to call it, turning away from that particular behavior to the best of my ability. Because I don't want something so bad if everybody else has to suffer for it. Empathy gives you a different perspective. It says, I'm not just in this alone. God is but one. So if I hurt another part, I'm hurting us all. That's why love does no ill to its neighbor. That's why when you know that you're in pain, you go see that, get that pain taken care of, so that you can now function again, so that the pressure is not all on just the other body parts, but so that you can get back in action and work yourself too. You got an option. And some people just choose not to ever heal it. And eventually it dies off, not because somebody has to kill it, but because they chose. Yep, I won't. Let the blood cut off from circulating in me. I'm good. This is what the scriptures may talk about when it speaks about, something being thrown in the chaff, like it's going to fall away. You go through seasons, leaves are going to fall. Might not be strengthened enough for that moment, but guess what, y'all? When the leaf falls, it goes back down into the ground and it creates more of the same. We don't know everything that happens with the roots or what it absorbs in order for more leaves to grow. It's all a cycle and it all works, but we get to decide whether we're going to step into the fullness and the wholeness of it, whether selfishness will be the last thing on our minds, because I understand what it means. And y'all, please hear me when I say this. Try empathy before you have to actually go through the experience to experience it for yourself and feel the pain. You don't want to experience everything. I think that's where the wise counsel comes in. It tries to help you avoid certain things in your life. Hey, I did that. I went through that. You might not want to go through that. But if you do, I ain't judging you. I'm here to lift you up where I can. And if I'm not strong enough to do it, I know how to dismiss myself and call and pray for somebody that can help you. But my intention is to never see you hurt. to never cause you to have to make a decision so strenuous to your heart. And so I empathize. I'm going to leave you with this. Living with vibrant empathy means I'm going to intentionally do this with the joy that I feel when somebody actually attempts to understand me. I know what it feels like for somebody to sit down and be able to relate. Again, we high five everybody who relates to us. We want them amen corners. But a healthy amen corner will relate to you where they relate, but still allow you to see through another perspective. Hey, I know that you've gone through this. I know that you felt this pain. I know that you went through this situation. But how about you look through the eyes of that individual and know that they probably went through some situations themselves? Do you want to be as broken and hurt as them to continue to cause pain? Or do you want to be one of the ones that can compensate when necessary? Vibrant empathy says, I'm in this. I want to see through a different set of lenses. Because when people are selfish towards me, it hurts. When they only want to see their perspective and don't see mine. See, that's where the fights come in at. Now we feel like we got to prove our point. Now we feel like we got to prove and take this stance and we got to make people know who we are. We got to be aggressive. We got to now be the very thing that hurt us. No. Vibrant empathy says, you know what? Let me try to figure this thing out real quick. It doesn't mean that I have to agree, because sometimes our perspective or our personalities are so different that it's difficult to agree. But I do want to try to understand, so I heal this and move on. I don't want it holding me hostage for the rest of my life. It may not be your perspective, but it is a part of the greater whole. So even that perspective has some validity to it. Vibrant empathy is what happens when I'm intentionally saying, hey, what's going on with you today? How you doing today? And I don't ask that question for you to give me a generic answer. I ask the question for you to give me a real answer. And if there's any way that I can help you to be strengthened in what you are dealing with today, then it is a pleasure. Because when you're strong, then you get to that strength to others. And when you give your strength to others, then they can be strong. And then they can give their strength to others, and then they can be strong. And then we have a world now that is living it out the way that God intended. God is the answer for every question. So y'all know I believe that God and love is synonymous. So therefore, love is the answer for every question, the solution for every problem, and the healing for every wound. We are that one to another. We are that one to another. So I hope I shared something today that helped you, that helped you to see things through a different set of lenses. And y'all, these are conversations that are not here to make you judge yourself, but to simply examine yourself, to think on these things, to think about how you feel when certain things are happening. Well, let me only give to others what I want to receive. And not out of my pained place, but out of my victorious place, my healed place. I remember what that like. I healed that place. So now let me make sure that I'm mindful. Well, what if people ain't mindful of me? There's always going to be someone that is trying to seek this same walk, going to be mindful of you. But if you block off everything and everybody, they're not going to knock the door down. They can't force their way in. God, love doesn't force its way, because then that's against your will. And free will is not a trick. So if you say you don't want something, don't get mad if people don't give it to you. If you want it and they ask, you need to be able to speak. But be very clear about what you're asking to other people. If your fear is causing you from asking a real question, then deal with the fear of it first. And then only offer what you're able to give. Only offer what you're able to give. And let it dissect. Before we get off here today, I'm going to take you through what I call exercise of breathing, because I know that some of the things we talk about may cause some anxiety. It may be fear still attached to it. You may still have some hard feelings or thoughts in your mind and you're ruminating about them. But when we have these conversations, it's so that we can plant seed, and these seeds will be watered over time and God will give the increase. But it's a moment in time where you get to stop and pause. Mostly every conversation we have will be about introspection. Because when we're living it, then we begin to plant seeds of what we want to experience. So your experiences will change. But if your mindset is still stuck in victim mode, then this may be very difficult to grasp. But in this is the salvation that we've been trying to grasp for our whole lives. Freeing yourself by freeing others. Being understood by sowing understanding. Being favored by sowing favor. Yeah. Wow, I just had a conversation kind of like that. We have to forgive those that have done things to us, not for them, but for us. And because they have a story too, we just don't know it. Absolutely. And here's what I'll say to that, Jayana, because we're going to talk about forgiveness next week. But this is what I will say to that. When we start even thinking from the perspective of I'm forgiving them for me and not for them, that's still a part of selfishness, right? So I am forgiving for me and for them. I'm forgiving for me because it relieves the pressure off of my body, off of my mind. It relieves me from carrying around the emotions tied to their offense. But I'm also forgiving for them because how many of you, when you are doing your self-work, for that you are also the offender. None of us are the offended only. All of us are the offender and the offended. All of us are the villain and the victim. We've all been both. So when I say I forgive for both, I'm saying, there's going to be a time where they may come into the space where they need forgiveness, where they're asking forgiveness, where they're trying to reconcile their own hearts, because we're all trying to achieve the same soul salvation, whether we believe it or not. And this doesn't have to be a religious conversation, but your soul salvation is that the thing that you're doing in order to get to your spiritual liberty, in order to be free and living in love and love alone, spirit and truth alone, the place of total shalom and peace. I'm not just releasing it for my own survival. I'm releasing it for the survival of the greater whole. So when I say that I'm in for me and not for another person, then that I'm still forgetting that we are one. I'm still forgetting we are just a part of the greater whole. God is not separate. God is one. And we're all a part of that. So when they do come to the place of themselves and they're trying to reconcile or heal or whatever, it doesn't, see, when we start to understand it, I don't need people to wait till they're on their deathbed to know I forgave them. It's my everyday work. I won't get too much into forgiveness. I don't want to go into next week's teaching, but that's why empathy starts first. Empathy helps us understand, yep, I've been there, done that. I have been the villain too. I've been the one that somebody looked at and said, you hurt my feelings, or you did this, or you did to me. And it hasn't happened as many times as many people may think, but there's some people who may have held it, not said anything at all about what happened and how they felt. So I'm trying to see the eyes of others, and my forgiveness of people. It's not just about my survival, but it's about the fact that one day, just one day, because I pray, right? Living according to the Christ mind, I pray for those who despitefully use me. All of us are meant to be used. That's why we have the gifts, the abilities, and the talents that we do. That's why we have the mind that we do, because we're supposed to contribute to this world that's meant to be used. But being despitefully used is where most of us get stuck. Somebody trying to get so much of what they need from us that they're not mindful. But the law of Christ compensates for that. To bear the burdens of one another is to fulfill the law of Christ. So if you're on a Christ walk, or you say that you're a Christian, or you're whatever religious practice you have, and you're not understanding that portion of it, then the message may just not have resonated within yourself yet. This life is not about just self-preservation. Well, let me say it like this. It's about preserving the whole self. That's the entire body, the greater whole. And in order to preserve the whole self, the same way the different members that you have in your body, in order to preserve the full self, one part has to be understanding of another. The brain doesn't need to try to be the heart. The heart doesn't need to try to be the brain. But they both understand that in order for this to work, we got to work together. So yeah, I forgive for myself so that I'm free from the burden, but I also forgive for them so the day that they need to receive this forgiveness, whether they ask me for it or not, they'll feel the peace of God that surpasses all understanding for their life too. And if I don't want them to feel that liberty and that freedom, then I still somehow think that I'm the one and the only one that's been wronged in this life. I'm still the only one that's been wronged, and it's all about me, and I'm the only one that's broken, and I'm the only worst person that's pained, and I didn't do anything. And we get these selfish narratives going. There's a way to live free and understood and loved, but it's the place where most of us are doing it together. When you're in a community where everybody loves each other to some extent, and I told y'all, my team, my kids, everybody feels some type of way when we go through certain conversations. But the truth is, we have to be able to see through the lenses of another in order to understand. And so when you choose the love walk path, when you say that I'm following the mind of Christ, or this is, I want to live according to, and we say stuff like, oh God, I want more of you, I want to know more of you. And then you start going through all these different experiences in your life, and you think, oh, the devil's busy. No, not in that sense. Well, see, let's say this. So the adversary has an assignment just like everybody else. So, just like with Job, have you tried my servant Job? God allows our experiences so that we can come into a full understanding of things. Job was already an upright man according to the scriptures, but after he lost everything and regained it, he had a couple of things to learn. Number one, now I know what it feels like to lose everything. So I would always be empathetic of a person who doesn't have. And now I also know what it feels like to have a victory, and to know that if I stand in truth, even as I'm suffering this pain, that in the end, there's double for what I've gone through. See, he learned some lessons, but the adversary had an assignment. And sometimes you're going to go through those situations so that you can then begin to see through a different set of lenses. So again, I pray today gave you something that you can think on, and don't just think about it right now. I hope you wrote some notes down. I hope that you're really trying to give this some thought, because again, if we're not giving out what we want to give, then what we giving? Hey there, Danielle. With the same love that Jesus did when died on the cross. And so when and that is an example. It's the ultimate example for those who were raised in Christianity. But there are so many just understandings of how God shows love throughout the earth. That was one ultimate that we learned about. But it's in everyday life. Parents do it when they sacrifice food so that their kids can eat when their stomachs are rumbling. Right? There are those in nonprofit organizations who sacrifice the amount of money that they be able to get if they went and worked a corporate job in a different environment, to take a lesser sum of money so that they can serve a community that's less fortunate. The sacrifice is the lesson. The cross was a symbolization for us to learn from. There's no greater love than the love of one that will lay down their life for a friend, right? We've heard that said. And so when we use empathy, that's what we're saying. You know what? I don't like the way I'm being treated. I don't like the way this is happening. But I've already in my mind, I understand that they may not understand this the way that I understand it. They may not have had what I had. And so let me try to understand them a little bit better so I can hurt them and not harm them. I think Mother Teresa said that. Or no, it was her, either her or Gandhi. One of them said, like, if you can't get along with people, and I'm summing it up, but if you can't get along with them, at least don't hurt them. Y'all may not be compatible, so that's okay. It's okay to admit that we don't really vibe. But before I hurt you, I'll separate myself. Before I hurt you, I'll separate myself. I'm learning that even more so in this season as well. Like, the things that happen hurt. Oh, it hurts. But hey, God, maybe you're trying to get me to look in a different direction, and you're trying to get me to release some things. So though it may hurt, the sacrifice of this pain may be somebody else's life being better. Maybe my life being better, or me being able to serve better in the future. All right, y'all. So that's it for real, for real. I didn't even expect it to be an hour and a half today, but hey, it's the podcast, so we're gonna vibe, we're gonna flow. Let me say to those of you who are going through anything in your life right now that has you feeling really, really protective of yourself and your heart and all of that, definitely with all due diligence, guard your heart, right? That simply means watch what you allow to go into the heart, right? Don't feed it anything that you don't want to experience. We may talk about, we think about guarding the heart as protecting ourselves against people again. But Jesus went into the situation of healing and doing his work, still giving of his strength to the people, even though he knew the state of their heart. So he didn't hide himself away from people. He just educated himself. He fully understood that these people are hurting. They are broken. They are in need of this healing that I'm giving them. So why would I judge them for needing the healing? But he guarded his heart in the sense of he didn't allow what they were spilling out, the pain and the venom that they were giving out. He didn't allow that to taint his heart. So he guarded his heart by not allowing the pain and the issues of others soak up within him. So yeah, some of y'all might not need to listen to certain music when you're going through. You don't need that type of amen. You don't need to feed yourself the same thing. Just because it sounds good for somebody to be able to relate to you. Could it be that you need to listen to someone that's trying to strengthen you instead? Not that music that relates is not good at its proper time. I do spoken word based on people's life experiences, so I relate. But if you're going through such a struggle, you don't need to feed yourself or heart something that's going to make it worse. So when you're sitting around talking with your girlfriends and talking to your friends and they just amening your decisions and your anger and your passivity, listen, I'll tell you, I get it. I totally get why you're mad. I get that you want to do this and you want to do that. But is that the beneficial decision? Finding the balance. If you're going through, don't feed your heart something that's going to make it hard, cold, callous. Don't high five with people that's okay with you staying in a broken place. People that's okay with you being mean and nasty to others. They just speaking from their own pain too. But the one that understands how to love you is going to lead you towards freedom, liberty of pain. It's going to offer you healing. And I say offer because it's your choice. Will thou be made whole? Question. It's not force fed to you. You have to choose it. And in choosing it, you take today's lesson, today's conversation, today's talk, and you begin to implement it into your life. And it may not be easy at first, but that's again why you have people that are there to be strong, why you still have this weakness. But you guard your heart by feeding it the thing that it needs to live, not the thing that continue to kill it. I pray that for you today, that you take it in, that you do the opposite. When you're listening to messages and it seems like it's hitting on a nerve, that's conviction. Not guilt tripping you, but just giving you information and saying, look, think about it from a different set of lenses. Selah. Think on these things. And then apply what you can. Put the rest away. Maybe it's a seed that needs to be planted, but it's not time for it to grow yet. But when your aim and your focus is towards love walking, then things begin to shift. After I had my daughter in 2013 is when I got my diagnosis for mental health. Now, I've been living with certain things my whole life. And right now, as I'm discovering and learning about myself more, I realize that some qualities from my diagnosis are just kind of like, a part of my unique self. And so I'm learning to love every part of myself, even the things that are not fully understood. But when I got my diagnosis for bipolar 1 and for ADHD back in 2013, I didn't, in major depressive disorder, I didn't reject them. I accepted them for what they were, because when I looked at the symptoms, I saw myself. And love always kind of being my guiding force, but not understanding how to fully live in that love, because I was dealing with pain from things that people were saying and doing too. I was mistreated a lot of places, being the only kid. I was amongst other people who were all siblings and friends, and I was kind of pushed around a lot. Adults talked down to me, made me feel some type of way because I was so unique, and my mind was, I've always been an old soul, trying to be shut down instead of somebody explaining certain things to me, like, there's an appropriate things. But when I got that diagnosis, I couldn't refute the things that I saw. Some of us want to be the victim so much so that we look at the thing and we want to deny everything that we see in these descriptions, instead of looking at it and saying, you know what, yeah, I do remember when I did this. I do when I was like that. I do remember being like this. Ooh, that was an incident where I did that. And then you look at them and you say, will I be made whole? Will I be made whole? They wanted to say that mental health issues and stuff like that are triggered from somewhere. And that could be true or not, depending on who you're talking to. Again, I believe that some of it is just personality. So with us our whole lives and will always be. But we learn how to bring some things under submission. Shalonda, that was really reckless. You had a lot. But when that thing talked about reckless decisions, and so with bipolar 1 and with ADHD, it's a crossover. So sometimes you have very similar symptoms in both. And I see myself in a lot of those things. And some things were not me, but the majority of them were. Yep, I remember when I did that because I felt like this. And so we want to sometimes justify and say, well, I did it because I felt like this. And it's okay for you to say, this is the why I made that decision. I don't know who this is for or why I'm going on. You can if you choose. It's up to you. If it's going to fuel you a little bit, you might want to take me to the king. I don't have much to bring. My heart is stunning. You might have to, this is my offering. I'm bringing you myself. You might have to give it up today. But I saw the crossover. And I don't know who this is for, but I started looking at the symptoms and looking at the things that went along with it. And because, again, since I was young, I just was in pursuit of God and love. I just wanted to give the whole hug and we all just start getting along, right? Because just wanted to soothe the pain in people. Because I realized at a very young age that the reason why people are so cruel and so mean is because they were dealing with some pain within themselves. That story about the alligator or the dog, or one of them sitting with, I think it was a dog, having something in the foot, so he got real ornery, just mean, and people just thought he was a vicious dog until somebody picked him up and saw that there was something poking him in. The pain was there. You take the thing out and the pain goes away. And I wanted that to be the case. But the more I got bullied and the more I got pushed around and the more I got misused, or the more I got used only for sex and then tossed away, it begins to make you a little bit more cold. So then I started looking at these symptoms and I started saying to myself, yes, it became a justification at first. Ooh, that's the way it's the reason why I'm like this. It's the reason why I feel like this in my body all the time. It's the reason why I feel this. And it became a justification. Almost could be used as a crutch. But when you say, God, I want to give you my whole self and I need my soul's salvation, I need my soul to be. Soul is the seat of my emotions. It's my thinker, my chooser, my feeler. The imagination, the heart, the emotions, everything about you. Your soul is your unique expression. And it takes the blows. And so I can either choose to lean into those things or I can combat them. All things are permissible, but is that beneficial for me? And I still work through them every day. I think food is probably one of those things we talk about a lot, but that's probably one of my greatest comforts, right? Food has become my comfort. Sugar, definitely my addiction. It gives me a certain level of a high. It takes my mind off of the things that depress me a lot, right? And we all are trying to find that thing that takes us out of that place of pain. Sometimes complaining is that for people. Sometimes it's, I got to use a drug, or sometimes I got to use the alcohol, or sometimes I got to use the sex, or I got to use just different things we choose to try to deal with the symptoms for the moment. But the day that you know you're free is when you can indulge in the thing that you enjoy, but it doesn't become your master. For all things are permissible again, but not everything is beneficial. Those things that I looked at, those symptoms I looked at, I had to say, do you want that control in your life? Do you want that control in your life, or do you want something else? Do you want live freedom? Do you want the trauma to be the thing that controls you for the rest of your life, or do you want freedom? Do you want liberty? Sometimes we think that the tangible thing is going to fix us, but it's all holistic. It's all spiritual. Let this mind be in us. And that mind starts with understanding love and the fullness of who God is, who love is, and applying these things to our life. So look at your symptoms, look at the things that are happening with you, and make a decision today as to whether you want those things to be your controlling factor. Because you think because you get hard and you put the walls up and you got the fortress, that you got everything surrounding you, you think that that's going to keep you protected from pain? No, because most of the time we end up inflicting the pain on ourselves from that day forward. Staying away from things we actually want. Some of us want loving relationships, but we're so afraid of being hurt by one thing that we hurt ourselves, right? That's the image. That's why we use the things that we use, because we want to inflict the pain. We don't want nobody else to inflict the pain, but we keep inflicting the pain. We stay away from the thing that could be our liberty, our abundant place, because we're afraid of what may happen. So fear won't let you free fall. Fear won't let you discover and explore and take the chance. I take the chance every day to love, knowing that it may come with a little prick of pain and some blood or something. Ultimately, I would prefer for people to know that they are loved and not rejected. I've grown a little bit to be able to stand up for myself too, and say it was hard for me to stand up for myself without that 0 to 100 girl, the one that's just gonna snap out, go off. But now I can assert myself and say, nah, this is not something I'm willing to accept anymore. But I love you. So if you can meet me halfway, or if not, then I can probably introduce somebody that may be able to deal with that in this stage of life. They may be able to take everything you offer them, everything you got going. But I choose to love. It's a decision. It's an everyday practice. It's an everyday practice. All right, y'all. If you are not subscribed right now, please go ahead and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share this particular podcast with someone that you think may benefit from it. If you are not registered for our mailing list, please go to bit.ly/Love Walk Chat. And if you so feel it in your heart to become a Love Walk partner, vision partner with us, then what you're saying is, hey, I think I might want to see this thing go on the road. We might want to have these conversations in person. We might want to be able to participate in whatever the Love Walk efforts that may be going on. Consider becoming a Love Walk Vision partner with us today. And you can do that by coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/Love Walk Outreach Global. I think I might have it here. Let me go ahead and paste this for you. Pick that up. You can see the Love Walk chat list, and you can see how to become a Love Walk Vision partner. And you can see at the bottom where it says, I love you just because I can. And guess what? It is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me love. All right. I love y'all so much. And thank y'all for joining me for today's podcast. Please put it on your calendar. Sundays at 4:21 p.m. Eastern time. We are here and we are ready to discuss. Next week, we are going to talk about, and hear me, if I tell y'all on an episode that we're going to talk about something next week, and then next week I show up and it's something different, it's simply because I choose to flow with the inspiration of the great I am, which means that whatever y'all need next week is whatever it's going to be. But right now, in planning, we are moving on to the second pillar, and that is forgiveness. So offering generous forgiveness, or offering forgiveness generously, whatever it is, a lot of it. All right. So that's the goal for next week. Pillar number 2, forgiveness. We're about to talk about giving it and get it generously. I think that's a good offset for today, talking about empathy and then leading into forgiveness, because that kind of makes everything else that we're going to talk about maybe a little bit easier. And that's only if you apply what we're talking about today, simply because you can. All right. I look forward to seeing it. And by the way, everybody that partners with us here at Love Walk Outreach, I keep you in prayer constantly. And as I see your names pop up in giving, then if I have a message specifically for you, I will do that. I do use my prophetic gifts. Those are a gift that God has given me, and I use that to build others. And so there are places on that site you can schedule a spiritual insight session. Say, for instance, this message today was like really tough for you, and you like, yeah, I hear you, but I don't really know if I got empathy. We all have it. You're just trying to uncover that which has been covered by the pain and the issues and the trauma. So if you need your own spiritual insight session where we're just tapping into the spirit realm, then please, by all means, go ahead and schedule you one. There is a ebook over there as well called Love Abandoned, The Greatest Temptation. So we tap into the different things that may cause us to be tempted not to love. Love is the greatest commandment. That means not loving is all the greatest temptation. So tap into those resources if you will. But please know that you are always prayed for. I care about you. I love you. And let's walk this movement out together. Many blessings.